Alrighty. Well, I didn't get far into reviewing the previous video before it invoked me to add some additional. And there's enough there that I think it's, which is what I do. It's like I say things, I then review it. That forces me to think deeper, to make more associations, to come up with more depth. And I think what jumped out to me just then, speaking about the a discriminated against culture of, say, that of homosexuality, right, being quite literally illegal. And so instantly there is an association between this behavior being illegal and then incarceration in prison. And so part of a really significant part of the formation of this adaptive pride LGBTQ culture is through the lens of incarceration. And I think that is exactly the same as the story of Australia, funnily enough. And as Australians, but not all Australians, but a significant portion. And so we can actually find that Australia, colonial Australia, then to the point of, say, if we get to, I don't know, the 1960s or 50s of Australian culture, had, I think, healthily gone through this whole process from incarceration, from a culture developed, adapted and developed to deal with the weight of incarceration, to the discrimination against your class, to unify together under a common culture, and then what I feel like step out. And this is what hasn't happened yet in the LGBTQ. They haven't had this. They had, like, and this is, I think, where, like, you could get the LGBTQ movement right now around the world is at the Ned Kelly stage. Okay. They've overdone it. It's like, if you could think of Ned Kelly running on that subculture of bushranger of going against the law, against their oppressors in the form of the English, and you get this anti-hero of Ned Kelly, still celebrated by a lot of outlaw culture, and now, like, it's like outlaw culture, Irish culture, and now, like, Australian culture, which has that, is permanently linked to that period of incarceration with that captivity culture. The problem with the phenomenon of homosexuality, as opposed to nationalism or ethnicity, is that it is randomly distributed throughout humanity. And so the real problem is that from this captivity culture that is formed through both the interaction with captivity of imprisonment and the phenomenon of discrimination and of bigotry and self-preservation to come together and to protect, it has gained too much power. It has gained its own culture, its own ethnicity, but that's flawed because it encompasses all cultures and of all ethnicities, all nationalities, all races, all hair color, all anything. So it is uniform across the board. And I think until now, it's kind of clear that still, both sides of this, whether you're in the discriminated against or whether you're in the discriminating towards, you are the solution that has kind of come up is that, all right, LBGT is a culture, and all little poofs and lesbians. Sorry, sometimes I use the term just because it's emotive. It's not discriminatory. I'm trying to bring in all the emotion of both sides and all the whole story. And the solution has been like, oh, little Tommy's gay, send him off with the poofs. And it's like, that's no different to little Tommy's a fucking just stole, something from the fucking thing. Let's send him with all the criminals. And then again, I'll have to backtrack out of this. I'm not saying gay people and lesbians, LGBTQ plus are criminals. I'm saying we haven't broken the association, and we haven't addressed the fact that their culture and their subculture emerged in the shadow of incarceration and imprisonment. And there hasn't been a good, and it isn't just a landing ground for all the people somewhere stuck in the middle between an over-exuberant, over-enthusiastic, over-empowered, very insulated subculture, which is like has a clear identity to it. That is not the landing ground for all LGBTQ people, and neither is the discriminatory world that we're in, because we're in the middle. It's like the answer is that there needs to be acceptance in all levels of culture. And then the problem on top of that again is that if I'm now in support of British colonialism, not full support, like I'm not, but I'm saying I'm wishing to continue my culture, and I can actually see wonderful examples of LGBTQ people in my culture. I also understand that some, not all of the discrimination came from my culture. There are other cultures that are far more discriminatory towards these people. And there are thousands of different cultural manifestations of discrimination. But it's like until other cultural subgroups reach the level of what I feel like my Protestant, British culture has gotten to. We're not overly enthusiastic, but we're not overly enthusiastic about really anything. And we've come a long way in the discrimination. It's somewhere in the middle. But we don't have any really cultural artifacts of anything remaining that is extremely discriminatory. And I think it's like there's a common thread here. It's like, as an Australian, descendant, I've got 180 years on one side, 160 on the other. I'm fully an Australian. I have been rejecting Australiana culture, which has the exact same effect. It's a landing place for all the people dispossessed by, a pretty crazy level migration, and then flavored with, heavy racial discrimination and, of course, incarceration. It is exactly the same, and it results to binge drinking, self-denigration. There's tall poppy stuff going on. There is hopelessness. There is drug abuse. There is domestic violence. All the same things. Child abuse. All these things. All of it tied in to a culture that was a response and a self-preservative manifestation of having experienced incarceration. But in most cases, not for. Well, it's still argue. It's like if you're stealing a loaf of bread to feed your family during a thing. It's like it's similar. So I have to always identify the shortcomings of my culture as well. But it is my cultural background that makes me get to this point where I'm addressing it. It's like there isn't a uniform LGBTQ culture or subculture that you can direct your child towards if he or she is displaying signs of homosexuality. It's no more than there is the heterosexual. It's not advised to send. It's not like, oh, if your kid's heterosexual, make them watch 4 weddings and a funeral. And if they're looking at if they're playing with dolls and stuff, then send them down to the gay bar at fucking 13. It's like, fuck off. A strip club is a manifestation of heterosexual culture. You don't send your daughter there when she starts looking at boys. You don't, and the same, you don't send your son there when he starts looking at girls. But this is already where we are. The smorgasbord that has been dished up and laid out in front of every single Western man, every single man, really, heterosexual man across the world. That is such a bombardment to the senses, to the heterosexual mind, that it is, and it isn't getting anywhere near the like. I actually think if you think of a lot of children and they ask, like, what would you want to do, and they say they'd fly, they want to fly. Oh, I want to fly. I want to fly. Well, we do fly. Right, and the people at the highest level of flying, say, Air Force pilots, fighter pilots, and they do absolutely wondrous things. But there is such a pinnacle of culture to get to that point. It's like the minute we have every single person, every single man, woman, child in the world able to access the ability to fly like a top level fighter pilot. That's a really bad fucking thing. There were men in the world that had access to women on tap, of all different things, and control over them to do that. That existed for a long time. The mass distribution of that is kind of the same result on the heterosexual side as what it's like. Oh, well, if the kid's gay, send him down to the LGBTQ fucking headquarters, and if it's heterosexual, get him on fucking YouPorn or Pornhub. And both of those, because for the majority of heterosexual men, compared to the hyper successful heterosexual men, they were in captivity. They were incarcerated. So their culture of pornography, the culture of pornography, follows the same kind of trend line as the culture of pride and of LGBTQ. It's just they manifest different. It's like one manifests as like with pornography and display and Playboy magazine and Hustler magazine and X-rated videos and porno and Pornhub and OnlyFans, and one manifests as like the gay bar, gay clubs, Grinder and all this thing. But then everything else is lost because your sexuality shouldn't. It's like at the moment we're kind of being filtered into two minces, and it just has left and right. It's like poofs go that way, things go that way. It's like, what about all the nuance of all of our fucking culture that has nothing to do with sexuality? And this has been displayed as, I'd say, like the domineering culture has been hyper simplified by people that were discriminated and dispossessed by that culture through, first maybe incarceration for stealing a loaf of bread, incarceration for whatever, Then they've developed this subculture, this rebellious, adaptive, self-preservative subculture in the form of like, that's what the Australian archetype is. or the LBGTQ or the pornography obsessed heterosexual, culture. And there's been such saturation of all of those groups that now it's like, oh, what, you were upset with like symphony orchestras and opera and stage performances and high level tertiary education, and because this was also a subculture, but it's a subculture that didn't manifest through captivity. It didn't manifest through discrimination. Well, sorry. It was a result of discrimination. And so this is where when you get groups that empower to such large things by collectivizing, they collectivize their fucking outrage and their dispossession by their oppressor. And this is where all this fucking Marxist bullshit comes from, right? They have to constantly claim, but it's like, but what's not seen is that this acted as a filter upwards. And it wasn't purely class-based. It lent towards that, but there were exceptions all over the place. And this is where we're kind of seeing the opposite here now. Like this is when we say like we're having a moment now because a football player admitted to being bisexual. And it's kind of like, it's so funny because it's like you can see that they've already gone past it. They're attempting to like walk their way back. When the reality is like every single person knows that there isn't just one bisexual dude playing AFL, that there has been gay dudes playing like fully gay as fuck guys playing football since its inception. So we almost reject it. We're like, what? It's this politically correct fucking stepping back. And that's because it's like this is a false war going on here, because that's the recruiting tool to empower these subcultures. It's like you have to be dispossessed, otherwise there's no reason to go to the gay bar. If homosexuality is normalized, and it's like, and then it's not just the homosexual man doesn't have one place to go; he has any place to go. He can go anywhere. Then the subculture dies. And I think this is the attempt, because there's such a strong identity that was so vital to seeing those people through their battle, but it ends up just following suit with whatever it saw before. But it tends to, like, if you have a subculture of like heavy drinking Australiana fucking yeehaw cowboy fucking, wild outback fucking Aussie oi, that tends people to be towards the original pressure that forged it, which is incarceration. With the odd, like, this is where you get the anti-hero of the kind of the outlaw. Ned Kelly still exists, and that's still thing. And then you can also squeeze it into, you can be a rough and ready, rebellious fucking AFL player, but there's not a lot of scope. It is restricted, and it is tending towards the negative because it was born within the negative. And rather than escape and rejoin and it is built up a protective shell of this subculture, of this rebellious outlaw subculture. And then I think there's a problem when that rebellious outlaw subculture becomes lifted to parity with the other culture, because then it's competing on its popularity as opposed to its productivity or to its output. It's a numbers game instead of a results game. A culture that celebrates, achieving with self-sacrifice and conformity is the culture that I come from. And then the combination, this is where we're now getting mix and match, where we're getting falsely people celebrating an outlaw subculture of rebellious, adaptation of incarceration. And then through that lens, they're applying the same rules of so if you elevate through that to elevate the status of that subculture, then it's being falsely perceived. But it's like the subculture before it, the civilized subculture, the British Empire is like, there were places you would go. You'd be a general, you would be a high-level principal or a teacher, you'd be a physicist or a naturalist or a like politician, like high level. Like you'd go through this thing, and you would become that. And it's actually no different. It's like if you take the, see, it's always the same thing. It's like you take, say, the country boy in the middle of country Australia, he's surrounded by the countries, whatever, like he's a little bit feminine and gay. You push him towards the LBGTQ, he'll come out as a flaming homosexual. But the same applies. Like you send him because he's has a capacity for leadership and study and duty and history and all that. You steer him towards Cambridge, and he'll end up as a judge. And so they're two examples of a subculture. One being, what I would declare is it never has been a subculture, except internationally. But that doesn't make sense in the telling of that, because no one really had that type of outlook on the world. You had an outlook of where you were. This is recent phenomenon to have a global outlook on the world. That didn't exist. So this Britishness that I speak of is not a subculture. It never emerged as a subculture. It was the dominant culture. It still is the dominant culture. And I would argue that it's over acceptance, it's over it's over tolerance of what are competing subcultures and destructive and sabotaging subcultures. It's over tolerance towards the elevation of these subcultures is what is leading to its downfall. And it's like if you put 1% of the scrutiny towards the British Empire onto any of these subcultures, they will fucking crumble. Whereas the core culture, and it doesn't have to be, if you want to go to a Persian culture or a Indian culture or a whatever dominant culture, you got to go there. And then the argument of Aboriginals, like Aboriginals didn't have a dominant culture. They were Aboriginals. They had a animistic tribal culture, and so did we. So did the dominant British culture. So did the dominant Indian culture. So did the dominant Persian culture, and they have civilized through to become the dominant culture of those places. And yeah, we've attempted to dominate over the top of another dominant culture and all these things, but these are internally manifest subcultures of the main culture, and they're bringing too much destruction. And it's not even in question. It's like the people in this LGBTQ subculture have been radicalized to be in complete opposition of the dominant culture. but there is nothing there. There is nothing. It is just destruction. And the only reason they're allowed to speak within our culture is because of our culture, because of that dominant culture as being egalitarian, being, political and, inviting diplomacy and discussion and conversation and, understanding all that stuff. That doesn't exist in other dominant cultures. So if we have another dominant culture of, say, at the moment in Iran, this Islamic fucking dominant, extreme Islamic culture, they don't even have a discussion. And I refuse to sit there and say that every and it's literally at this stage, I would declare it as that every young boy or girl who's manifests some type of homosexual behavior or inclination is thrown to the wolves. No. We had homosexuals within all of our culture. In fact, a lot of it, it's like the gayest culture there is, if you think about it. If you take a British person and compare them to like any other thing, it's like we're the gayest. It was incorporated into our fucking thing the whole time. It just wasn't equal because purely for the fact that it is non-reproductive. So it's innate within it. It's like, well, obviously heterosexual relationship has to be the pinnacle of our culture because it is the only reproductive one. It's like, it's that simple. But we weren't ever not gay. And in fact, it's funny because I get made fun of on here for presenting as a woman. It's like if in Australia, another manifestation of a culture that is, recovering from a period of captivity, if I present as an English gentleman, I get called gay as well. That's not a fucking mistake. It's not a fucking, it's blatantly fucking right there in your face. The British culture, the British dominant culture that now this fucking global LGBTQ fucking cult is in direct opposition with, is the most egalitarian, most understanding, most inclusive of homosexuals culture that has ever existed, except maybe the Greeks. But even the Greeks, it's like they didn't. There are reports from the Greeks. They had a civilized, accepting culture of homosexuality. And they condemned the over-sexualization and the pedophilia that they were witnessing from their Persian fucking enemies. So you can see, and it's like, there isn't a blanket fucking movement for all people that are gay, or all people that are lesbians, or all people that are trans, or all people that are bisexual. That is complete fuckingly false. There should be a recovery of these, massively disrupted fucking dominant cultures, and we should be allowed to celebrate, our perseverance to defend against this sabotage and to defend against this cultural invasion, this cultural degradation, and this fucking debaucherous fucking global bullshit parade. Because it doesn't, like, they want to say you're celebrating British culture, you're homophobic. So, no, if I had a gay son, there's no way I'd fucking send him fucking anywhere near that fucking thing. I'd say it's the same. It's exactly the same. It's like there's people that are gay in all walks of life. They're not just confined to these places. There's people that are openly gay. There's people that are closetly gay, and all of them are welcome. This is the thing. The problem with the fucking pride thing is it's we're here, we're queer, we're here, and like that. That archetype exists in heterosexuals. That is the person. That's the Andrew Tate, bragging about his conquests and his cars and his fucking over exuberance. It's like that's the same. They're more in common. The outrageous, flaming fucking LGBTQ pride parade Mardi Gras crowd have more in common with the fucking extremely fucking hyper masculine Dan Blazarian and Andrew Tate than they do with anyone coming from a discreet, subtle culture of kind of what's the word, of properness, or of confined discretion, like that. And there could be gay people on either side. There could be lesbians. It's not like gay homosexuality or gay is not a culture. It's a manifestation of like time and place and of a desire towards something that can change and can go up and down, can fluctuate. So it's not a culture. The same as Australianism isn't a culture. Well, it is, but it needs to be understood the same way. It's a culture of recovery from incarceration, from recovery from a large migration. It's a communal exercise, but it should not be enforced. And we shouldn't oversimplify ourselves down to be like, well, you're not Australian unless you're an Aussie. And I still have to do it. I have to dip into it. And this is kind of what homosexual people have to do with pride. They have to be like, yeah, wave the flag. Like, but it's not really good for anything else apart from that. There aren't, and it isn't really good to commit your entire life to a culture that has emerged from discrimination, and to claim that as your archetype. And it's funny because like this is what the Jews are famous for. That is their entire thing. It's like we're being constantly persecuted, we're doing this, we're doing that, and it's like that must be identified as the original archetype of this, adaptive, rebellious culture. And the fact that like all these Abrahamic religions are coming from their text and from their story, shows this. And the real problem is like, well, we can't. They were successful over Egyptian culture. We don't have ancient Egyptian culture here anymore. And there's a lot of people that are obsessed with it. And it's like, look what they did. And I think it's time. It's like we need to start like, and this isn't. It's not anti-Semitic to say this, but it's like, can we just get an explanation from all the Jewish people as to like, well, how come you haven't done what the Egyptians did, and why aren't the Egyptians here anymore? Do you know what I mean? And why are you still in this? And is this the display of a really high level version of it? And then it's like you can look at the Pride movement. It's like, well, it's what's more popular is blatant public celebration of Jewishness more popular now, or is blatant public displays of LGBTQ signification? I'd say the LGBTQ. And then you get down to it's like, well, all Abrahamic religions stem from that Jewish Torah. And so why has that happened? And why is this LGBTQ thing still holding strong on one identity? And it's like the tendency of that LGBTQ mob to attack the smaller group of the Jewish people when they're doing the same thing. See, it's inevitable that the LGBTQ movement, cult, pride, fucking whatever, will disintegrate and will compartmentalize into subgroups. It's just that those subgroups are the existing culture because it has nothing to do. So it's like our culture is LGBTQ friendly, but we're not friendly towards the LGBTQ movement. So we almost need to be like, our culture, British Empire fucking culture, is very welcoming and friendly and inviting in of all L, B, G, T, Q, like, but if you all get together, then no, we're not. There is no fucking, there's no fucking movement that can hold that type of thing together. And then it's like, and our culture, our dominant culture, wasn't a manifestation of heterosexual culture. There's tons of gayness in it. There's tons of reference towards gay. Pirates were gay. Alexander the Great was gay. Achilles was fucking gay. All the Greeks, all these things are gay. There's a lot of choir boys and wrestling and rowing. A lot of fucking really homoerotic fucking behavior in the British Empire. The cabin boy, like all this shit, it was all gay. There was all gayness. There was gayness all around the place. But there wasn't debaucherous gayness. There was gayness held within a dominant heterosexual culture. But that dominance was just purely held by a fucking monarchy, by a fucking king and a queen, because that was what literally in the minds of those people gave birth to the next generation of the thing. And then everyone fell underneath that. That's it. It's really that simple. It's like the king and the queen have a child and that continues the empire, the kingdom. And then everyone else just does all different types of things. I really do think there's an obsession with this LGBTQ cult thing to have like a monarchy. They call themselves drag queens. Like to have this kind of drag queen monarchy, but it's like it is a prison cult. It's no different than like MS-13. It just has better fucking, better marketing and it's become more whatever. It's like, but they shouldn't all be in together. But to do that, they need a clear message that everyone's not going to discriminate again, that we're not going to send them back to jail. And yeah, we shouldn't have sent them to jail in the first place. But it's like that was during a war. I don't think we have a lot of fucking really good evidence of the interactions between, LGBTQ people and our society. But I see the evidence of them throughout it and through the culture, and it's right in there. You know what I mean? Go watch Baba. If you haven't watched Baba or Baba in a while, like Pompadour is gay as fuck. And Pompadour is pretty much, I'm pretty sure, gay with the general whose name is Cornelius. Like they're openly, and it's like no one knew that. I didn't know that. But the gay people in our culture would have seen it and gone, I like that we're being represented. And I think they liked it better. I think the gays preferred that than this shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like it was always there. Always. We've always been supportive of LGBTQ fucking thing. Of course we were. We were a naval superpower. In the Navy. Da, 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 like chorus fucking. Da, 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 like it's gay as fuck. We're the gayest people on fucking earth. Culturally. We're the most culturally celebratory gay culture that has ever fucking existed is the British Empire. And the thing you need to understand is the real frenzy of this LGBTQ comes from the United States, and they've been against the British Empire for a long time, and really strongly, a lot of really intense propaganda. You know what I mean? And they use the same. They're in their minds, they're an incarcerated subculture that escaped the hideous fucking slavery of the monarchy, and da 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 da. So it's no doubt that their gays adopted that same intensity and started a gay cult that took over the entire world with the attempt to call the British Empire the most restrictive homosexual empire that's ever existed, despite the fact that it is the gayest fucking empire that's ever existed. There's gayness everywhere. And they have the two extremes. They've got the John Wayne calling us all puffs. Look at those fucking puffy little faggot little Englishmen. And then we've got the people declaring that we're all pent up and fucking... It's like, what? What? We weren't. Gay. Blatantly gay. You know, it's like if you want to, like, portray a fucking Englishman in America, you portray a gay person with an English accent. That's how they do it. It's the same in Australia. This is why it's so hard. It's like it's so hard to protect a culture in false circumstances, like where the most horrific fucking, you know, colonializing fucking, you know, small-minded, bigotry, fucking discriminatory, fucking selective fucking culture in the world. But we're also like, we're also this feminine, you know, hyper socially concerned, hyper civilized, effeminate fucking... It's like, it's just run out of steam. It's run out of steam. The LGBTQ movement is the United States fucking front as an attempt to conquer the British Empire, and it failed. It failed because they made hell on earth, and they lied about every fucking single thing that you could ever lie about. The British Empire is a very small set of ideals with a very clear hierarchical structure that you, if you're a member of the British Empire, you have, you know, in good circumstances, you have a very good chance at being, you know, pushed along and risen up to your appropriate position. Within a rebellious subculture of incarceration and imprisonment, you're just getting lured into someone's cell so that you can get fucked. You know what I mean? And that is unfortunately the truth about the whole thing. It's a subculture that has thrived in prisons and in the shadows, and it uses false tellings of all these things to recruit, and it is just not a good holding position because it's not an empire, it's an anti-empire, because it celebrates the culture of rebellion. You know, and you have to rebel against an empire. You can't rebel to an empire, but it's doing a pretty good job at trying. You know, someone would argue it's like the amount of promotional content towards the LGBTQ pride movement in the last 5 years is probably more than the combined fucking promotional activity of the entire British Empire for its entire fucking existence. You know, and the population size of people, you know, supporting this movement as opposed to Britain, probably up there as well. It's just it didn't go anywhere. You know, a bunch of people had sore bums, and some people had no tits. Some people had the like that. All right, that's where it fucking went. It's a dead end. It's an anti-empire. You know, some would say it's the Antichrist empire. I don't know. I don't know about those things. I just know that I can see what I see. And it is possible to maintain that the spirit that you've got from your subculture, from overcoming the shortcomings or the discrimination, but then it's not a problem to lead back to the place. You know, that's like Moses. Like that's what Moses did. Moses incorporated into Egyptian culture and did all these things, and then freed his people anyway. It's like where's the gay Moses? You know what I mean? But the problem is, it's like gayness is not a culture. It should never be a culture. The same as like heterosexuality has never been a fucking culture. Queerness isn't a culture. Fucking, you know, pride isn't a culture. It's a cult. It's because it's too two-dimensional. It's too small. It's too fucking like weird and selective. Like it's something that manifests and has been over promoted by the original, and it's like they haven't wanted to stop the party. They haven't wanted to stop riding on the floats and being celebrated as these things. And there's no responsibility by these people to stop it. And it's now probably all right. It's like Pride's trajectory. It did more to liberate homosexuality people than anything, and then it did more to corrupt them again. And that's not really something to celebrate. And it's lucky that you've got someone here from the British Empire trying to walk in and explain some of these phenomena to get to a point where we don't, because I don't want to repeat. So I don't want to go all the way back to bashing people in the fucking gays in the streets and fucking putting them in prison and all this shit. I don't want to go back to that because that will just repeat the cycle. I want to explain and understand why down to the highest level, and then attempt to walk into and re-regulate our fucking empire. And you should now, at this point, allow us to fucking celebrate our fucking empire because of its simplicity, because of the fucking the brilliance of its very small little fucking what's it called? The very few little archives and not archives, relics that maintain it. The little clues, the little breadcrumbs. There's just this, and it kind of rings on. And it's like that, and that's not going to happen with your movement, with your subculture. It's like, you know what I mean? It's not the same thing, because you belong to us, not to that. Like you, and there is a place for everyone within us, and there isn't a place for everyone within that. Like a true celebration of egalitarian, of equality, is that there's no difference, and that unfortunately stops the celebratory behavior. If there's no difference, we've been very tolerant with a lot of exuberance towards your so-called liberation, but the moment that your over-exuberance kind of starts overburdening our culture more so than the original transgressions that led the previous people into the incarceration in the first place, then we've got a serious problem. It's like walking back now. Send the young boys and girls everywhere. They need to go some of them need to go to university, some of them need to be on a job site, some of them need to be in a library, some of them they don't all need to be fucking drooling and munging on each other in fucking MDMA filled fucking hypnosis fucking parties and riding half naked on floats. That is a subculture that is, been falsely presented as whatever. That's the thongs and the stubbies and the fucking VB fucking of the Australian. And it's like it is such a dull tool, such a fucking inaccurate bullshit device that I'm forced to have to try and fucking, maintain. And I immediately put myself up for fucking discrimination because I do stray away from that. I'm like, Australian history wasn't that. That's not Australian. The same as when I hear English people talk about fish and chips and fucking pints of beer and the football. It's like, no, so much more than that. That is this fucking, that is this socialism, communism. It strips. To provide everyone with everything they need to shrink the things that we need down. And to be inclusive, they need to fucking, they need to shrink that down. It's like, are you a gay? I'll go in the pile of gays. with all the pile of gays, including the rapists and the fucking child molesters and the fucking everything. It's like that's this sorting box. Like fucking the world is just fucking Harry Potter's sorting hat. So at least those kids were going in other groups of kids. They weren't getting sorted. It's like, oh, did you just look at that fucking Barbie doll, little Johnny? Here, throw him to the fucking the horny fucking men. It's like, fuck off. And it works the same in reverse. So it's like the teachers kind of promoting this shit and ushering these, there's the sorters. It's like, what children are getting sorted towards the like ultra discipline? None of them, despite the fact that ultra discipline is what's led all of our fucking past heroes to fucking great victories and conquering over fucking warring fucking people and all this stuff. So none of them are. It's just sorting. It's just constantly sorting. Gay, left, fucking not straight, go there, fucking here, get your porn, fucking hungry, go to Hungry Jack's, fucking thirsty, go to fucking the Bottle-O, Thirsty Camel, fucking horny, go to fucking, it's like fucking fuck off. Fuck off.